Shadow work is not about fixing things that are wrong with you. It's about understanding why that's there and accepting all parts of ourselves. Welcome to Brown Girls Need Healing Too, the podcast where we dive deep into the journey of healing, transformation, and radical self love. I'm Kiana, and I'm here to help you break free from trauma, reconnect with your inner peace, and step boldly into the life you deserve. This is your space to feel seen, heard, and supported as we explore the tools, stories, and practices that will help you reclaim your power and rewrite your story. Because healing isn't just for some of us, it's for all of us, and brown girls need healing too. So, on my healing journey, I've come across many topics and many modalities and many things, but I am quickly realizing that shadow work is by far my favorite type of work. So I love shadow work. And if you are a reformed people pleaser or a person that seeks validation from others, shadow work is some of the best work that you could ever do for yourself. So, the shadow self or shadow work is a phrase that comes from Carl Jung. And essentially what the shadow self is it's the repressed unconscious part of a person's personality that contains both positive and negative qualities. Um, Key word here is being repressed. So it's the repressed part of yourself that you hide from other people. Now, the importance of this is that your shadow self is still yourself. And one thing that I've learned in my journey, one thing I've learned by observation, one thing I've learned in life is that the more that you repress your shadow self, the more that you essentially torture yourself. And as a reformed people pleaser, as a person who used to seek validation from others, I realized I was seeking validation from people because I couldn't validate myself. And I couldn't validate myself because I had so much repressed emotions, desires, weaknesses, negative traits, instincts, impulses, feelings, so many things that I repressed because society says, this is who you need to show up as in order to be accepted. Now, a lot of our shadow self is created in our childhood years from the age of 0 to 7. And why this is important is because a lot of times the shadow that's created in people is created because of other people's shadows. And I want you to hang in there with me because it is about to get a little complicated if you're not already familiar with how, um, you know, um, formation of the mind works in children 0 to 7. But let's say, when you're a child, you don't have a shadow self yet. You don't. You're just this radiant ball of light. And so when you have a person, that you spend a significant amount of time with, a caregiver, whomever, a guardian, a sibling, a family member, whoever you spend time with, when that individual is around a child who's shining their light and that light bothers and or triggers that other individual with a shadow, they in tune cause that child to start repressing the parts of them that shine the brightest. For example, showing emotion is a natural, normal human characteristic. It is a sign that we're human. It is a sign that we're actually healthy because we're processing emotions. So, crying or showing negative emotions is something that's good. However, generationally, we have been trained. We have been trained like militant children from birth to repress our emotions. And so, unfortunately, when you have when you pass on that generational curse of repressing emotions, that becomes a part of one's shadow self. For a lot of people, that is a part of their shadow. For me, that is a part of my shadow. Dealing with emotions is such a weird space. It could be such a weird space for me because I don't necessarily know how to deal with negative emotions in a healthy manner. I was never taught it. I was never modeled it. I don't necessarily, I didn't necessarily have the tools at the time until I started meditating. Um, but like I'm saying, for a lot of people, dealing with negative emotions is a shadow self. So what do? Because you're ashamed of it because as a kid you were told don't cry or I'm going to give you something to cry for or you get sent to your room. Or you as a child realize very fast that you are not going to be safe if you're crying. And so that becomes a part of the shadow self. And then when you become an adult, that is something that, a lot of people have to constantly battle. And so in my healing journey, confronting my shadow meant confronting this part of myself that was emotional or this part of myself that felt feelings very strongly. I've always been told that I'm sensitive. People have always made comments saying that I'm moody. And, at the end of the day, those are just reflections of their own selves. Um, and so, but, it stuck with me. So, on my healing journey, I had to confront my shadow self. And what I realized is that the more I tried to deny emotions, the more I tried to ignore my emotions, my quote unquote negative emotions, the more I tried to push them away, the more I tried to distract, the more I tried to do anything but acknowledge them and feel them, I would essentially be tormenting myself. And one very important thing that I need to clear up is that shadow work is not a negative thing. Having a shadow is not a negative thing. When we really look at radical healing, that comes with radical, whole 360 self acceptance, the good, the bad, the ugly. And so personally, I am in a space where I'm really working on accepting people for for who they are, but that has to come from me. I have to change that within me, and in order to do that, I have to accept every part of me, good, bad, ugly, in order to have radical self-acceptance. And again, shadow work is not about fixing things that are wrong with you. It's about understanding why that's there and accepting all parts of ourselves. Where a lot of people get hung up is they fail to be honest with themselves. You have to be honest with yourself in this journey because you cannot look in the mirror and then tell yourself, you can't obscure your own mental picture of who you are. And I feel like a lot of people do, a lot of people can't be honest with themselves about, their feelings of jealousy or resentment or their negative impulses or their weaknesses. Or I've noticed in the Black community, vulnerability is a thing. Oh my God. Black women do not like to be vulnerable. It is so hard for us to ask for help. And so if you cannot look in the mirror or look at yourself and be honest about what you see, you are never going to be able to meet with your shadow and give love to your shadow in order to heal yourself. And the amazing thing about healing and shadow work is that light and acknowledgement and love transmutes those negative feelings and the negative attachment and the negative hold that it has on your life. The What people don't understand, most people don't understand, is that when you deny your shadow self, it just It just shows up in different ways. Oh my God. Have you ever, have you ever been jealous of somebody? Have you ever been jealous of somebody, right? Take a second here and really think about, like, why are you jealous about this? Does it make you feel less than? Why does it make you feel less than? Where and when in your life did you feel less than? And what does this specific instance remind you of in your childhood? For example, because you know your girl loves examples. For a very, very long time, I would always get irritated or give people the side eye when I felt like they did things that appeared to be self-centered. For example, having themselves as their screensaver on their phone or their work computer, or people that have blown up pictures of themselves in their homes above their bed or things like that. Um, I would always look at them and be like, "Oh, wow, you're so self-centered." And when I really looked at it, when I really met with that part of myself, why do you feel this way? You know, why you don't even know, you don't know. There are an infinite number of possibilities. How could you possibly know that this person is self-centered because they have a photo of themselves as their screensaver? But what I realized was, as a kid, I was often told the world doesn't revolve around you. And even though I grew up an only child, I had the mentality of an only child. I was a kid, whatever. And so I would be told the world doesn't revolve around you, or it's not about you, or, whatever. And so I learned to make myself smaller, right? And so when I saw another person who did not make themselves small in that same way, it triggered me, keyword, triggered me, and it made me feel like something was wrong with them. But I was just mirroring what was inside of me that was unhealed, and that is such a beautiful thing to realize is once you really sit down and you look at the things that trigger you, you look at the people that trigger you, and you really sit with yourself to understand, why does this trigger me? Take it to your shadow and ask yourself, like, hey, where is this coming from? Why do you feel this way? And I promise you, if you sit with it long enough, you are always going to get an answer. I always get an answer almost immediately. You're probably wondering why you even need to do shadow work. And to be honest with you, some people never will. Some people will never confront their shadow, and they will continue living their life based on the concept that they choose to accept for their life. However, with that choice, if you choose to not confront your shadow, you are subjecting yourself to a lifetime of suppressed emotions and a lifetime of denying yourself. And you can only deny yourself for so long until you wear yourself out. This is where disease comes in. People develop anxiety, depression, because the soul, the spirit, yourself is oppressed. We are not designed to be constricted or stagnant. We are energy, and we are designed to move and grow and flow, and all that happens when you remove the blocks of not confronting your shadow and denying yourself. Self love and self acceptance is one of the greatest things a person can do in order to, one, break generational curses, into, in my opinion, completely change the world. Completely change the world. Could you imagine how different our world would be right now if we had more people walking around that were willing to look in the mirror and point the finger inwards instead of outwards? So listen up, because I'm giving you some homework. It's very simple. Ask yourself, journal, write it down in your phone, do whatever, meditate, close your eyes, love meditating. Ask yourself, What traits in others trigger me and why? This is the most telling. This is the most telling tale ever. What traits in others trigger you and why? Sit with it yourself. Your conscious mind, your subconscious mind will come up with an answer. And most importantly, when you're doing this, please give yourself grace. Do not judge your feelings. It is completely normal to have negative thoughts about yourself and about others, but it's what we do with those thoughts. And the more that we practice self love, the less we have to deal with those negative self thoughts. They come up less and less and less. And if you are a person that loves affirmations, as I do, I have one for you. I honor every part of myself, even those I once feared. And if you're a quote girl or gal like me, love quotes too. Um, Carl Jung, I love everything that he says, literally. Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people. It is so true. Because when you know and you accept your own darkness, you are more understanding and accepting of others, and you take it less personally. So, if you found this episode to be helpful, please share it with somebody you love, know, care about, see on the street, whatever. Share it on your Facebook, share it on your Instagram. This is going to completely change the world. If we can heal one person at a time, it is going to be worth it. If you're listening on Amazon or Spotify, please rate my show. It is going to help my podcast grow and get out to many, many people who desire to create a change within themselves. If you're listening on YouTube, leave a comment. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and I love you guys so much. I will see you in the next episode.